Good afternoon, everyone. I led the development of economics learning standards for Australia, and my provocation is, well, why bother? And the reason that's my provocation is because that's exactly what senior colleagues in my discipline said to me when I announced that I was going to be leading the development of learning standards. I mean, their comments to me, some of them, were, well, look, they're not going to be mandatory. They don't exist in the US, by the way. The US doesn't do this kind of thing. So why don't we just leave it to university departments to develop their own learning standards and assess them and let 1,000 flowers bloom, and the market will sort it out, spoken like a true economist. All right? And you know, the market will figure out what are the good economics programs in the country and which ones aren't, and they'll be ranked accordingly. So who needs the standards? Well, I might say it's particularly the GO8 universities who put this to me. So, you know, they would say, well, look, sure, there's the TEXA legislation, and it says that we need robust processes for benchmarking our programs. We need to be able to say where our programs have come from. And we also need to be able to benchmark achievement standards. But we don't need national learning standards to do this. We can say, the University of Melbourne can say, well, we got our economics program from Harvard. Well, that's an external benchmark. We don't need national ones to develop. And the AQF, for example, we can comply with the AQF without having national learning standards. We don't need them for that purpose. So that's my provocation to you. Now, I might add that I saw great value in national learning standards, but not for compliance purposes with TEXA or the AQF or anything like that. It was an important national conversation because and I did establish a national conversation around the country with people, because it asked people to focus on what should our graduates know and be able to do when they walk out the door, and a lot of people haven't really thought about that very much. And so, you know, there are a lot of stakeholders out there who are interested in that kind of question. I mean, there are obviously academics, but there's future students, there's employers, there's the general community who wants to know what people do in an economics degree at university. And so I thought it was a good conversation to have, and it also opened up and stimulated a new conversation that we're having around the country, and that's about employability skills, and we heard about that this morning from Paul. So, you know, how we embed employability skills in our curriculum, how we ensure that graduates can practice the discipline, because the feedback from employers is that we're not doing that well in that space, and we could do a lot better. Employers are telling us that our students know what's on page 100 of the economics textbook, but they can't actually practice the discipline. They can't solve new problems in new contexts. They don't have the soft skills that we talk a lot about but don't do much about. And we just heard about that from Sophia. So that's an important conversation that's also been stimulated by the fellowship, and the fellowship's extended into looking at assessment. So the question is, well, look, you've got these learning standards. This is what students need to know and be able to do. What sort of assessment tasks can we create to encourage academics to actually focus on the standards? So, and that's what we've done. We've nearly created a bunch of exemplar learning standards that actually linked, exemplar assessment tasks that are actually linked explicitly to the learning standards. So I think it was a worthwhile project, and I think I managed to convince a lot of the recalcitrants initially that it was worth doing. Thanks.